Food and Beverage Magazine Live, bringing food and beverage to life. With your hosts, James Beard Award winner Jennifer English and Food and Beverage Magazine publisher Michael Politz. Featuring leaders in the hospitality, branded food and beverage, and CPG industries, many of whom are Jennifer and Michael's friends in the business. For an informal and informative conversation where friends in the business share the latest intel, ideas, and best practices. Live, juicy inside scoop from the tastemakers, newsmakers, bread bakers, drink shakers, spoon lickers, clam diggers, farms, foodies, and friends of the Food and Beverage Magazine World. Here are your hosts, Jennifer English and Michael Politz.
Well, hello, everybody.
It's just me and you.
No, it isn't. We got a lot of friends with us. How are you?
You know, we have friends in the business.
Yes, we do, actually.
I know you like that.
So we are covering a lot of interesting ground today because allegedly, and I need to get confirmation of this, the restaurants are, and I don't even know how to state these things accurately because it changes so fast and so frequently, but for all our friends in the business, we need to know. I heard that the California restaurants were allowed to open today. The question is, if you're a California restaurateur, do you open? Are you going to open? We're going to ask questions across the country. Are you being allowed to open? Do you want to open? Is it too soon to open? I think we're all just sort of wondering. And you'd think that the people that make all the rules to protect us would reach out to the experts in the business. See, Michael, I think like what we do here, where we reach out to our friends in the business to like educate us, like tell us what we need to know so that I have like the inside scoop from the people who know, and then I can feel like, okay.
You know, I read something today that our friend Danny Meyer said that it's irresponsible to open your restaurant today.
I mean,
did you read that?
No offense if he says that.
Then he says it. No, I'm just saying what I read and but I understand that people need to make income. People need to work. People need to have commerce moving, right? The movement of commerce. And it's scary, you know, like, look, it's scary. Nobody wants to be sick. And I don't even know how sick you get. I mean, hopefully we won't find out.
And I don't want you finding out. But the truth is that we're all trying to find out as much as we can so that we don't inadvertently or mistakenly walk into something. I have to ask you the tough question. Michael, would you feel comfortable going out to eat today?
I don't even feel comfortable walking into 7-Eleven. How about that? I went in there this morning and they had their masks under their chins, everyone that works there. And I'm thinking to myself, this is her. I just feel awful. Then I got my drink and then I went to the counter. They did have a piece of plexiglass over the front. So that lady couldn't spit on you, right? But you still had to poke all your numbers in. Join the club, put your numbers in. There was no way of doing it without touching something, right?
Yeah, save 4 cents a gallon, but lose your life.
They had a big sanitizing gush. I'm going to say gush because I hit that button. That stuff splattered like a bug on a windshield all over my hands. It went out my arm. I was like, more, please. I felt like I was bathing in it. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I just kept going. But it was very scary.
So I'm going to pretend I'm a thespian. To open or not to open, right? To gush or not to gush?
That's
to go
crazy,
out or not to go out? How do you know what to do? To mask or not mask?
What made you want to be a thespian just now? John Lovitz?
It sounded Shakespearean to me.
I'm about to send John the link and have him do the thespian for us.
So here's the thing. Every day we have our friends in the business join us because they know better than we do. They're on the ground. They're the ones making it happen in every industry, in every part of our industry. And there are literally meetings taking place around the country right now in almost every jurisdiction, trying to determine, is it safe to open? And it's a mildly worrisome consideration that all over the planet, everybody is thinking about this topic. And with all these millions, billions of brains focused on the subject of safety and opening and commerce and food and conviviality and the rest of it, that we don't have any single best practice yet. And so what we have to do is say, well, okay, I'm not going to worry about everybody else. I'm just going to worry about us for right now.
Jennifer, would they, if it wasn't a financial decision, would they even want to open? No.
No.
They want to be safe. So let's open. I mean, I get it.
You know what? I am not a restaurateur, so I have no business answering that question. And I'm sorry I was so quick to answer. Because the reality is, for restaurateurs, let's just be honest. Nobody's in this business to get rich. A few do, but most do it because they love it. Most have been in it a long time. Family operators, and we're going to talk to one of those people today, are in it because it's who they are and it's how they participate in the community that they live in. And I have to say this, to really get the sense about what's going on, you reach out to your friends in the business. The White House had their task force around the table the other day. Restaurateurs were invited, and I'm not sure we got anywhere close to an answer.
Of course we didn't. They had everyone around that table was a yes guy. Yes, yes. I don't think anything was being challenged. Who was going to be? You're going to sit there. These guys are so overwhelmed with. I mean, yeah, you know, they have their insecurities. They do well. I don't know who they all were. You and Elizabeth knew all that, but you know, believe me, they were so happy to be there. So happy to be there that nobody was going to ask a challenging, tough question.
Well, you know what? I have courageous friends who've been in this business a long time, and they're joining us today. And we're going to talk to some old friends who are on the other coast, and they're going to help us understand where we are with all of this. On today's show, a little later on, we're going to talk to the International Association of Culinary Professionals Best Radio Show nominees, David Ransom and Melanie Young from the Connected Table. They're going to be calling in from their studios in upstate New York, from Camp David, no less. But first, we're going to turn to an extraordinary woman who I have long respected and admired. Suzanne Elefante was the first, and I'm sad to say, only president of the Arizona Restaurant Association, and she has, through her activism in action, living her actual restaurant truth, welcoming guests, and in her leadership, side by side with her sons and their families in a business called Mama Luisa's that has been around for over 50 years. When you have cravings for places that have been part of your life, and you could make spaghetti at home, but it doesn't taste the same as the incredible homemade pastas that they make at Mama Luisa's, right? There are things you crave. There are things you want, including connection to the people that bring the place to life. And that in and of itself would be a lifetime of connection and success and achievement. But in this particular time, in this moment, in this time and place, restaurateurs, independent restaurateurs, who allegedly were represented by the Independent Restaurant Coalition at the White House the other day, and who are represented in meeting halls all over the country as board of supervisors and aldermen and city councils and mayor and councils and senates and legislatures and state representatives are all grappling with what to do and what's the right thing to do. We turn to our friends in the business as they do to ask the hard questions, to say, what do we need to know before we make our decisions? And just this week, on the same day in Washington, D.C., that they were asking those hard questions were being asked in Arizona. And Chef Michael Elefante and his remarkable mother, Suzanne Elefante, who now joins us, were there and want to ask a challenging question. They threw it down, and they did so with respect and collegiality and kindness and strength. And for that, we are enormously grateful to them, and we're honored to welcome the past president of the Arizona Restaurant Association, Suzanne Elefante from Mama Luisa's, to the table today to join us to talk about how do you set them straight when they're at the top of the food chain in terms of lawmaking and rules and regulations. And of course, the question has to be started with, to mask or not to mask, to open or not to open. Suzanne, welcome. Welcome, Suzanne.
Well, our answer is, for us, we open. But
oops, we lost Suzanne. Oh, there we go. We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty, but let's bring Suzanne back.
He's buffering.
She's buffer as Suzanne buffers. Why don't you give us a little background on what happened? Because here we go. Hello, Suzanne.
So to mask
Hi.
or not to mask, to open or not to open. Suzanne Elefante, welcome back.
Well, we, for us, decided to open. So, but we have friends that haven't opened yet. Years ago, my husband's passed away 22 years ago. And years ago, he taught a class of high school students, and they asked him, what do you do if you lose business? And he said, well, it'll be my wife and myself running the business. And right after the closing happened, it was my son and I never thought that would be where we would be. So Mike was in the kitchen and I was out front as business picked up. We're lucky we've been here a long time. The restaurant's been here since 1956. My family's had it since 1973, and I've been here since 73. So I've been here almost 50 years.
Wow.
So, we kind of knew that we had to right away keep ourselves from going into debt. The most important thing was to be able to pay our main bills and not go in debt. Because in Tucson, the one thing you don't want to do is go into the summer being in bad shape.
Yeah. And
So,
people need to understand,
that's why we did it.
People need to understand, Suzanne, the relationship between the lawmakers and the restaurateurs. And as past president of the Restaurant Association, you really do represent the kinds of organizations in every state and the kinds of legislative relationship that exists. What have you been hearing and experiencing about how important the communication between legislators and restaurant operators are at this moment?
It's very important. And it's important, as you said earlier, to be respectful, but to let them know that it's not okay to do these things. And one of the things I tried to explain to them, so we've had a salad bar since 1993. That's gone. Now you've taken away over 50% of our seating. That's gone. And we understand that. But then I have an empty restaurant. I'm open for people to dine. And you tell me that I can only have someone with a reservation or call ahead seating come in when I have empty tables. That's not acceptable. And that's really one of the reasons that everyone, kind of got up in arms, because we want everybody to be healthy.
Right.
I'm older. My children worry about me, and I try to do common sense things. And that's what we look at. So, okay, we're going to go along with, we understand we have to be staggered seating. We understand salad bars are not healthy anymore. But also, you cannot put us in a rowboat and dig and drill holes into it and make us sink. We all here, we're all in this together, but we're not in it together if we're trying to make it too difficult for restaurants to stay in business.
Suzanne, would you talk about how the meeting that took place with the Pima County Board of Supervisors earlier this week came about, and how it was the case that several restaurateurs were able to stand up and make, I can only call it testimony?
Well, they passed an ordinance that was more difficult than the governor's. And so the governor's was reasonable, but then when you start adding all different kinds of things, and one of the issues that the Restaurant Association dealt with was, you can say when you're at a public hearing or you're talking, well, this is what we mean. But if push comes to shove and you got to go to court, what's really written?
Right.
So that's one of the reasons the Restaurant Association was adamant about some of the changes they felt needed to be made.
Can you talk?
And it went well. There were a lot of people.
Yeah. So take us there. How often do restaurateurs get a chance or even have the time to go before a legislative body and talk about what's needed? How frequently does that communication take place?
Probably not as frequently as it should. Like anything, unless it's an issue affecting you, people don't say anything. They let it go. So the good thing, my family's been active in the Restaurant Association for almost 50 years. And so we've always been there fighting the battles. And things have been kind of quiet for a while, but I was really happy to see all of the young restaurateurs that came to this meeting and spoke out at the call to the audience. That was wonderful to see.
Paint a picture for the audience who was not there. What happened at this particular meeting during this time of crisis?
Well, they had chairs sitting in the lobby for the people, the overflow that weren't going to be able to go inside because it was staggered seating. But in the lobby, one of the restaurateurs, when they spoke, pointed out that the seats were not 6 feet apart. They were only about 4 feet apart. Then inside, when everyone was skiing, one of the young men said, so 3 of the supervisors had masks on, 2 didn't. And when he got up to speak, which was early in the call to the audience, he said, I've counted 26 times that you've touched your mask. And then when my son Michael got up, he pointed out that the microphone and the table was not being sanitized after each use. So, and then there were people there that worked there that didn't have masks on. We have to have masks on. We have to continually wipe everything down.
The sanitizing of the table is an issue because the rules are that you have to sanitize the tables between guests, and you're a responsible operator. You do that anyway.
Right, exactly. I mean, when this whole thing started, before there was any guidance from anybody, we took all the condiments and off the table. We were sanitizing them between each use. We made sure that no one was refilling the same glass that some drank out of. So restaurateurs are smart people. They work really hard and they understand that if their guests get sick, it's not going to be good for them.
Right.
So right away, all the restaurants started doing things that are common sense things to make it safe for everybody.
As somebody who's part of the national level of Restaurant Association presidents, you were one of obviously 50 Restaurant Association presidents. And if you looked at the big picture of who is responsible for the operation of food service in every state, who should be making these rules and these laws? Who is best situated to be dealing with this?
Looks like we're having some.
I think but certain parts of the country have far more serious problems than we have. I have a son in San Francisco that's been in quarantine with his wife since early March. I have a daughter in Chicago that goes to work 4 times a week at a big hotel there.
Yeah.
And I have cousins that live in New York, and they're all very, very careful. Where here, we don't have as many issues. So I think common sense, we don't want to scare people. We got to live our lives. I mean, the mental health of some people is suffering because of this. So we have to look and we have to say what is reasonable for our part of the country and even our city.
Yep.
Because some cities are more prone in the same state than others.
Listen, before you've been very generous with your time. I know you've got a really robust, thriving business at the moment. People have been missing your legendary, world famous, house-made, handmade pastas and pasta sauces, which, by the way, humor me. did you have any spaghetti and meatballs there for us today? Because I wanted to share that with everybody.
Yeah.
Oh. We'll fix it. Why is Jennifer not in the stream? That's amazing. I don't know what's going on. Everything get bloop. We blipped. We lost her right when she was about to show you these insatiable spaghetti and meatballs that I just looked at.
Those are irresistible meatballs.
Really?
Somebody that's that thoughtful and careful about making their pasta, sauces, and meatballs can be trusted to take care of your kids and your customers.
It's true.
I'm telling you, it is.
And I want to let me say this. As a director emeritus for the Nevada Restaurant Association, for all the tenure that I put in there, they make you on the board of directors. They make you emeritus, and you get a little plaque, and you're fabulous for everybody. But you never get invited to anything anymore. But I did notice that now the coming ups are the young chefs and the young restaurant owners. I don't know how involved they're getting in the associations, but there's a caring there that's different from the guys that we were in the association with.
We came up with.
Well, yeah, but I'm not talking about the Rick Moonins and those guys. I'm just talking about the Pizza Pio shop owners and the different guys like that. The young guys up there now, they're pushing hard. I don't know whether they're part of the association because I'm not a part of it really anymore.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to get my tenure.
Michael, you wrote the book, The Food and Beverage Magazine Guide to Restaurant Success. And one of the things that your book does not do is talk about how really hard this business is.
Yes, it does. That's the first chapter. Because I make people think if they want to really be involved in this business before they go in. And by the way, I would prefer them to say, oh my God, I've got this book. I read this chapter. This is so hard. I can't go into this business. Because I would rather them do that than fail, right? I don't want them to fail. That's what so I'd rather them say, I can't do it. It's easier. They won't lose their money.
Yeah.
By the way, the book available at Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. Thanks, Suzanne, for taking that, by the way. Look at the face. Look at the smile. Suzanne, where are those meatballs? Let's go. Let's see those meatballs.
We're talking about these fabulous spaghetti and meatballs. They're irresistible.
Can I tell you a joke about what you just said? You know, there's a joke in the restaurant business. You know how to become a millionaire?
No.
Start out as a multimillionaire.
Right.
And it's the truth. So let's see if I can show you that. Can you see that?
Look at this. Let me go live big on this. Look at that.
So that's going to be my lunch.
I'm going to tell you, if somebody can make homemade
every day,
homemade pasta, homemade meatballs for 50 years and have them be irresistibly delicious for 50 years, I trust them. I do. I think it's important that we look to our restaurants.
Thanks so much.
I'll tell you, we said this yesterday, Suzanne. Restaurants, going to a restaurant where you're a regular, it's not like going to the Safeway or going to the Costco or going to Target. There's no emotional connection the same way there is with the restaurant family that welcomes you as a regular. Will you talk just one last bit on this topic? You've been around in this business for a long time, and you've got regulars. I've watched personally as you welcome guests by name. People love your place. They love your meatballs, and they love you and your family. That's what we miss when we don't go out. That's one of the things we miss when we ask the question to open or not to open. But we have to ask with the responsible mindset of we have relationships with these people. Will you talk a little bit about being a place that has regulars and how important that is?
I missed a little bit. I'm having a little static.
Sorry, Suzanne. Can you talk about how important it is to have regulars and what it means to a restaurant like yours where you can welcome your guests by name and you've been there for a very long time, for over 50 years, and what it really means?
And that's important, and people like that. It's important that and you don't see it a lot anymore. I still have guests that since 1956. And what we see are our guests come in, maybe they're dating, they get married, they have children, then the children become too cool to come in with mom and dad, and then they go away for a while, and then they find that special person, and then they're back together, and then now they're having kids. And it's a wonderful thing to see how the families progress. They kind of go apart for a little bit, then they come back, and they're all coming in together. So that makes it very special for us.
Before we let you go, Suzanne, what advice do you have for independent restaurant operators like yourself in cities across the country that are tuned in about becoming active in relationship and communication with governance? I can imagine restaurateurs saying, I'm too busy. I can imagine there's too much going on.
I kind of miss.
What advice do you have about how important it is for any local restaurant to get involved and to communicate with governance?
So important, because they affect your life. They affect your family's life. They affect your children's life. And so to sit idly by and let communities just do whatever they want, even if they're well-intentioned, what may be good for a big box down the street is not necessarily good for little mom and pop that has to struggle every day to stay in business. Right. And that's what's great about independence. They're used to struggling. They struggle every day.
Yep.
And they find a new way around what the problem is.
Suzanne Elefante, Mama Luisa's Restaurant.
So stay involved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you so much.
All right.
What a nice person.
She's amazing. And she gives and gives and gives and participates and leads and demonstrates how leadership in action makes a difference for everybody. And if anything, I want to come out of this, it's that every operator at every level, no matter how small, has got to have their voice heard. As citizens, you get to vote, and the elections are the time to make your voice heard. But as operators, your restaurant doesn't get to vote in an election, but you do get to reach out and speak to the mayor, the council, the aldermen, the supervisors, the county, the state legislature, the state senate, the Congress, the Senate, the president. You can reach out to everybody to be heard. You have to actively participate and be
So you're saying use your voice.
Use your voice, but do it as carefully as you serve your food, because everybody that's as careful about a meatball has to be just as careful about their messaging.
Be concise with your messaging.
Well, no, it's about saying, I want you to hear what my message is. I know how to do this. And maybe you don't know that this is what goes into making a successful restaurant happen.
Let's talk about messaging.
Messaging.
And the next guest that's coming up that built her career on messaging.
Well, she's the best in the business.
The best in the business, right?
One of the best that ever was. Helped to invent and define the business.
Wow.
Perhaps one of the 3 people most responsible for the James Beard Awards.
Absolutely. And many other things.
Many other things.
Yeah. And her name?
So Melanie Young from Melanie Young Communications was a pioneer in the hospitality industry, communications industry, based in New York, but a native of the good old-fashioned American South, where her combination of sass and charm and smarts catapulted her to her own agency and success. And it is in her latest iteration that we're celebrating today, as the International Association of Culinary Professionals made their nominations known for their annual awards. And the IACP Awards for Best Radio Program included the Connected Table, which our next guest hosts with her husband, David Ransom. Melanie Young is not only the pioneering host of the Connected Table, one of this year's best radio show nominees from IACP, but she's also a fantastically successful author, a best-selling author of Fearless, Fabulous You. And I know is it Fabulous, Fearless You or Fearless, Fabulous You?
Well, there's Getting Things Off My Chest.
Was the first book.
And that one did really, really well. Third edition coming out this summer. And then Fearless, Fabulous You, Lessons on Living Life on Your Terms.
And so not only is Melanie Young a dear friend and become a dear friend over the years, but we are both cancer survivors. And she and I will tell anybody out there that not only this moment in time of crisis, but any kind of health crisis, we recommend surviving highly and do everything we can to get through and sustain and survive and thrive. And she is not only a thriver, but she does so fearlessly and fabulously. The one and only Melanie Young. Welcome.
Hi, guys. Great to see you. I love seeing faces now, right? Moving faces.
I know. We're together.
Yeah.
Melanie is joining us from her test kitchen and studios in upstate New York.
This is the Zoom room.
The Zoom room. I love that. Talk about what's going on in New York and talk about what's going on in our industry.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here. I have been sequestered with David in the Hudson Valley. So we are 90 minutes north of New York City. And I'm going to tell you, the last time we were in New York City was March 13th. And I'm going back in for the first time on March 27th. I'm a little nervous.
May 27th.
May 27th. Yeah. I've lost track of time. It's pandemic brain. And from what I understand, it's very quiet. I'm in touch with a lot of friends who are still there. A lot of things are closed, but here's the good news. Things are slowly and carefully reopening. I see it up here because I went into town to do my weekly run. Things are slowly opening, but very slowly.
Is New York City opening its restaurants?
Not right now. I mean, from what I understand from Governor Cuomo, we need to, I think we're lockdown, or whatever it's called, until June 15th. But a lot of restaurants are doing takeout. Like Barbara Sibley has been doing an amazing job at La Palapa. Cote Steakhouse. I talked to Victoria James, who's a terrific new book out, Wine Girl, and they're just hoofing it doing steak with Le Carabelle champagne with my friend Rita Jamay.
Hi, Rita Jamay. We love you.
I know. So I've been calling everybody who I know that's still in the city to say, how are you and what can I do to help you through my own, the show, the social media. So like I talked to Rita this weekend because Rita's a new grandma. So all I can think about is, she just had her first grandson. And I was like, did you get to see? Yeah. So she said, because we know Rita sells a lot to restaurants. So she's had to work with partnerships with retailers. She said they've been awesome. Sherry Lehman has been awesome. She's doing a caviar champagne tasting, and you can get, it's pricey, but you can buy it, and it's with Petrosian. And then she's doing steak and champagne with Cote Steakhouse. She's doing something with Adam. She's all over the place. I mean, I'm telling you, she's like, just there's no grass under her feet. But a lot of people like Barbara, like I said, Barbara is doing that. A lot of the restaurants are doing Daniel Boulud's Blue at Home. They've all, in the wake of this, had to adapt. And many of them are adapting well. Are they making a lot of money? Probably not. But they're making something, and they're staying out there versus nothing. But in the long run, I don't know. Everybody's saying that, I've heard dire numbers, 50%, 40% not coming. A lot of the mom and pops are going to be gone.
Okay, so tell you. This is a really important statistic to stop the presses. This is the news we need to get to today, because in California, our understanding is they're saying, open the restaurants in California. I don't know if they're opening or not. I think people can make their own decisions. Is it too soon? There are organizations like Too Soon, Tucson. There's a real conflict for a lot of people.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm from the South, and it's scary in the South because Georgia opened up. People are not. I was talking to my mother. People are not wearing masks.
Yep.
They're going out. The South is taking it. Sorry, love you, South, but they're taking it a little more easy, including Florida, and that does concern me. That's been going on for a while. I mean, my cousins were out playing tennis. Restaurants are pretty much, we see the pictures on the news. They're busy, not at full force, but they're busier.
Melanie Young from the Connected Table joins us from her studios and Zoom room in the Hudson Valley in upstate New York. You were stating some numbers, and I just want to stop and go back and revisit that, because they are not just numbers of how many seats restaurants are having to take out, which is the same number, 50%. A lot of restaurants are being told, take out half your seats.
Right.
That's not that 50% that you just said. Please talk about what you're hearing, where you're hearing it from, and what is that number, and what will that mean to our industry?
Well, I'm reading it in the usual, like Eater, Wall Street Journal. I get up and it kind of like flows, and I'm getting it from the wine industry as well. So I'm when I get up in the morning, it's like the business news, the restaurant industry news, the wine industry news coming at me, and then I get the New York State news and the Daily Cuomo email, which is kind of nice. He does a great email every day. The dire side of it is we could lose, I've heard, 40%, then I've heard 1 in 5. I don't know. I mean, here's the problem. The Paycheck Protection Program, or PPE, from what I understand, it was going to be to help hire people back. But in New York City, will they come back? The psychology of this in New York City, and I understand that. Like, I'm scared. And I'm never scared. I'm fearless, but I'm very worried about going back into New York City. And I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to get around? Are there going to be cabs? Well, I don't know. My friend Rachel Martin, who owns Oceana Wines, most of her business is on premise. So she's doing Instagram Live and back in her winery in Virginia. She's taking a bicycle everywhere.
Wow.
I'm not going to do that. So I don't know. I think the issue is transport. Like, New Yorkers are going to be very neighborhood centric. Will they be able to hop a cab or take a subway, God forbid, down somewhere else?
Are going to be in neighborhoods if what you're telling us is that between 40 and 50% of independent restaurants are going to close.
Well, I heard that. I don't think that's a fact. I've heard numbers from 1 in 5, which is not 50%.
So
1 in 5 is a fifth. Right.
But no one is saying that people are getting through this unscathed. So I just want to be really clear about what we're hearing.
I'm hearing that the mom and pops are going to be very challenged, because it's, unless landlords give them a break and people come back, they're going to have a challenge. They already had minimal margins, Jennifer, because it's so expensive to run a restaurant in New York. Yeah. To run a restaurant, as somebody said, I think it was, I was on a feed with Ashley Christensen and a couple of people. Lark Me Winery hosted it, and someone said, are the landlords going to? We're working at reduced capacity. Will the landlords work at reduced capacity? Will the utilities people cut us a break? Because it's got to be a full break. Right. Otherwise, you have to have a certain amount of customers to pay the operating costs. Right. And you can at 50%. So 50%, I think, is maybe they're saying 50% of people not coming into the restaurants, not necessarily going out of business. I think 50% not coming back is too high. But I've seen some dire numbers on Eater.
Well, and what becomes concerning is if we are going to become, neighborhood centric in the denser populated areas, San Francisco, New York City, downtown Boston, Chicago. And if we have to localize geographically, will that help smaller places survive and thrive, or will that starve some out?
I think it's too soon to tell. I mean, New York, and that's the whole country, but New York is kind of a weird scenario.
Yeah.
Because even though it's a city, it's the most divided city possible. I mean, I know people, I'll never forget when my friend Tony May moved his restaurant from San Domenico in good times to SD 26 below 20, just above 23rd Street. And he lost a lot of customers who wouldn't go downtown. So, you think about the customers right now, a lot of them are not even in the city. They all decamp to their country homes and beach houses. So I heard a friend of mine, I was on a call with her Wednesday. She went back in the city and she said it was dismal.
What advice, as a cancer survivor, as a longtime leader in the hospitality industry nationally and regionally, what advice do you have for the restaurateurs, our friends, who all across the country are facing really similar issues without a similar source, a single source for really reliable answers? What should we be thinking about? What should we be doing?
I think we need to go back to the core idea of what a restaurant offers. It offers hospitality and a gathering space. People went to restaurants historically as gathering spaces. Maybe they didn't have kitchens. Maybe they just needed to get out. I think Danny Meyer said that on a recent Instagram with Wine Spectator. You got to get back to your core principles. Right. We are here to provide hospitality and a gathering place, and the food may be simpler. The ingredients may need to be more focused and less, out there. But go back to the core. People miss going out to restaurants. I see this all the time in threads. People want to go out again. I miss going out. I'm tired of sitting home staring at my husband every night over our same dinner. So my message is that people want to go out. They miss it. We all miss our restaurants. They are the fabric of our community. So the restaurants, simply like in cancer, you just have to adapt to a new normal and realize there will be new guidelines to stay healthy, not only healthy in the community and for your customers, but healthy for your business. And you will adapt to that because you always do. We are the most resourceful industry. We have gone through so many highs and lows, economic, in 9/11, tornadoes. Nashville got whacked before all this. You will come back and the customers will come back because we miss you.
Melanie Young, you had an active role in the commencement and growth of the James Beard Awards. And this 2020 class of James Beard nominees is a very unique one. Mm-hmm. We recently had an online nomination announcement around the same time as the Beard Awards would have been taking place. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time any of this happened this way. And it's unprecedented. The thinking and the explanation from the Beard Foundation is that because these people have worked just as hard as every other recipient every other year, they deserve to have their moment. Mm-hmm. Would you talk a little bit about how unique this time is and how in the legacy of the James Beard Foundation and the James Beard Awards, this is a really sort of consistent message?
Well, first of all, I think the James Beard Foundation has been doing a really good job really getting out there to provide the best support it can. I mean, the house is closed. They can't do dinners. So they are going all in. We're there for you through grants and resources and messaging. I think going ahead with the James Beard Foundation announcement, and hopefully there will be a ceremony in the fall, is very important for the psychological impact. I mean, we need that reassurance that things are still going to happen, whether it's the James Beard Awards, the Oscars, the IACP Awards, the Emmys. We want, I don't know about the Tonys, but I don't know what's going on, but I think it's so important. And the awards are not about what somebody did in the past year. And this is so important. They're about your body of work. So to not celebrate an individual or restaurant's body of work one year because we're in a pandemic is not fair. So the James Beard Foundation is doing the right thing by providing nominations, and the show will go on. It may go on in a weird way this year, but the show will go on.
Yeah. This year's James Beard nominees The announcement came later than it normally would have, but it arrived, and there are people being recognized for their work. But the foundation deserves a lot of credit. Mitchell Davis, Catherine, the entire team, Claire. Would you speak to how important, even for non-members of our industry, that resource is? There are tremendous information and other resources available through the James Beard Foundation for every operator and restaurateur, even if you're not a James Beard Foundation member, and they may not know how to get in touch or access those resources. But I'd love to be able to make sure everybody that is hearing this knows that they could reach out to the Beard Foundation and get some kind of guidance and help.
Well, jamesbeard.org is the website, and I have checked it many times to see what information I could find when I was doing my own research for our shows. And they really, have put their all in their key core value, which is supporting and nurturing and honoring America's culinary tradition. And this is the time to help them preserve it. We don't want to lose restaurants. We don't want to lose people. We don't want to lose an industry. And the James Beard Foundation really has stepped up hard and fast. They've been doing a good job of investing in women. They have that great program with women. The awards are like the icing on the cake. What they're doing besides that is amazing to nurture careers and profession and entrepreneurism. So this is the time now to really say to any restaurant or pastry shop or coffee shop, it doesn't just have to be a restaurant. Go to jamesbeard.org. I don't work with them, but go to them. They're doing a great job, and there's some great resources. And there are other organizations and opportunities as well, but this one is all encompassing. And what I mean by that is it's not just restaurants.
Right.
I mean, it's not just restaurants that have been hurt. Other businesses, farmers, suppliers, all the people that sell into the food service chain, wine industry. They're all members of the James Beard Foundation, and the James Beard Foundation serves all those constituencies. So
Melanie,
there is more there.
Melanie, would you please let's shift gears a little bit. The Women Chefs and Restaurateurs is an organization. Le Dame d'Escoffier, I know you're very instrumentally involved with. International Association of Culinary Professionals. The social media has been really integral to keeping our industry together in a lot of ways. In all of this time, what are some of the things that you've seen that have been really great resources, ideas, inspiration? What have you seen that you can tell us a little anecdotal stories about? What's out there to find?
Well, I got to tell you, this pandemic has changed how business is being done and how businesses are being promoted, and it is a game changer. The virtual events, the virtual community, the virtual happenings are incredible right now. I was, it's like between 4 and 8 p.m. Somebody wrote this, literally. Amber LeBeau, who has a great blog called spitbucket.net, said that starting at 4 o'clock, her phone starts beeping. And from 4 to 8, she calls it the witching hour, because there are so many online tastings. There's online cooking classes. There's talks, there's book talk, you name it. So we're going to have an entire industry just virtual in addition to real life. And anyone who has a business now has to have a virtual strategy.
Right. You have been very successful in partnering and representing the wine industry. Your husband, David Ransom, is one of the premier wine and spirits journalists and judges in the country.
And he says hi. He's been still mowing the lawn.
He's mowing the lawn. I love that. From Camp David. Give us some tips about how to survive and thrive with wine in this pandemic. We haven't had enough wine experts on to talk about their favorite sips that are quarantine worthy.
So are you talking about surviving if you're in the wine business, or surviving if you're drinking wine at home? That's two different things.
I know, that's really true. I had imagined that, well, both.
Well, I'm going to start with one that is important, which is surviving in the wine industry, because right now retailers are doing great. So everybody else, producers and whatnot, the challenge is doing your Instagram Live, IGTV, Zoom, your virtual tasting well. Because I was waiting in the parking lot while David was grocery shopping, and I was watching one. I won't say who, but I said, oh my God, he needs media training. Yeah. Because too many people are doing these and they have no idea what they're doing. And to make the conversation interesting, you need to have a theme. You need to be knowing you're talking not only to the person on the screen, but to a big audience out there. Engage them and say, hey guys, don't you love this chef or this wine? Get people talking, make it fun. Too many of them are very stiff. And so there's a whole opportunity to train people to be better virtually. I'll be honest with you, I actually have not attended a lot of them because I'm too busy doing what I do. You have a show, I have a show. I'm too busy writing and producing a show. Now, David and I drink all the time. We are drinking from our cellar because life is short. So we're drinking from our cellar. And so we've been pulling out all the wines that have just been sitting there. And some of them have been really good. Some we've had to throw down the drain. But, we've been drinking whatever we want. And my message to anyone listening is this is the time to pull out those special wines and really enjoy them.
And
Don't
I'm sure
wait.
John Brecher and Dorothy Gator from the Wall Street Journal's Guide to Wine would be the first ones during this pandemic to say that very thing.
Absolutely. I mean, a pandemic is a great time to say, hey, life is short. Let's drink good wine. And by the way, my theory is always life is short. Always drink great wine.
But that's because we've had cancer and survived it, thankfully. I mean, you learn surviving something like that. A, you become a person of enormous gratitude. And B, you realize that you only have this moment in time, this present moment of today.
And it goes to food too. Like, we eat very healthy. We drink our wine. You only want to put good stuff in your body, whether it's eat or drink.
Right.
So my message to anyone, listening and watching this show is, enjoy this time at home. We are forced to be at home, so make the best of it. Get out there and start cooking. Have fun with your food. Drink really good wine and savor it. You're not running around going here, there, and everywhere. You're actually probably saving money. You're probably saving money eating at home. Get out a cookbook or watch one of these 9 million free cooking classes that all the chefs are doing and have some fun with it. We are.
Before I let you go, in your life as the founder and president of M. Young Communications, one of the leading public relations firms in the space of food and beverage for a number of years.
20.
You were pioneering and bringing an entire tent of wines from Spain to the Food and Wine Classic at Aspen. You've done some really ginormous projects, but you also did a lot of media training.
Yes.
And I'm going to
still do media training.
And you still do.
Yeah.
And so literally, when we think of media training, it might be you're going on the Today Show, make sure you're good. That's changed. Almost everything we do now has a certain media thoughtfulness about it. I'm going to impose on you. Can you give us one or two really useful tips in the realm of media training that all of us can benefit from as we go forward in our online and virtual lives, in our Zoom meetings,
Sure. And a lot, I learned a lot also when I went on tour for my book. I made a few mistakes at the beginning.
Not my beloved co-host and the mocker at Food and Beverage Magazine, Michael Politz, needs this because he virtually invented media to be media trained in. But
I was trained by the best, Jennifer. We know that.
I'm going to tell you the number one thing, whether you're hosting a show, you're a guest on a show, you're telling people, is really know the show and know the people. Do your homework. Do your homework and find, I always try, and I know you do too, I always try to find that little personal tidbit about that show or that guest or that person to bring into the conversation, and think about who's listening, because who you may be talking to on the show may not be who is out there in the audience. And a perfect example is we may be talking to, like you do, a wine industry executive. This happened recently with the Rhone Valley. We had somebody calling in, Frederic Chaudier from France, from Chateau Pesquier. And we learned to change the conversation. And we've done this through the pandemic. Our audience likes to be transported. We started getting chat room comments like, we just want to travel again. And we realized that people listening, they're not experts. They just want to travel again. They want to learn the most basic things. So our conversations have changed during the pandemic. And like we had on a guy, Gaz Oakley, yesterday, a plants only kitchen. And it was just on how to start cooking vegan and what are meat alternatives if you like meat, but you want that umami. And that is a big change in our conversation with our current show right now.
But that show was inspiring, if you want my opinion.
Well, we try to inspire. I mean, I think, and this is for anyone who's going on as a guest. Think about those 3 things that you want to inspire people to say, wow, that was something. I learned something. I felt something. I'm inspired to do something. If you can get someone to learn, do, think, and feel emotional by hearing a guest on any topic. I mean, it could be chapstick and why it's important, how you can put it under your eyes. I bet you didn't know that. And besides, you're here, and you can put it on your hands, which are like, crazy from sanitizer. The key is find those ahas and share them. And that should be in any interview you do as a guest.
Melanie, when it comes to media training in terms of some of the technical aspects, look at how your camera is positioned absolutely perfectly in front of you, and the lighting is great and the background is great. How do people, discover that maybe they could improve some of these aspects a little bit? What are 1 or 2 things that everybody should be our starting point?
Oh my God, this was a conversation on the way home. Practice before you go on air. Really understand what you look like in the video. How many times have you interviewed a ghost? Make sure the camera is facing the right way so you don't have all that backlight. Check use the best settings possible. With Zoom, they have high definition settings. You can change the lighting. Think about what's behind you. Make sure it's like, not a naked person or clutter. Or something,
Melanie, or it is a naked person.
Yeah, or it could be a naked person.
Right.
Think about the color you're wearing. Like when Jennifer called and said, "Can you be on the show?" I was like, not wearing this. I was wearing something else. But think about your neckline. Think about the light. But most importantly, a lot of people do this. I literally did a La Dame de Scafé call with Betty Fussell. Really a treat, but she was like this the whole time. I saw the top of her head the whole time. So you want to think about where you're looking, and then like you're gonna laugh. My laptop is actually on a KitchenAid 5-quart stainless steel box with a KitchenAid in it.
Oh, wow.
That's my prop to elevate my laptop.
And so even that's a tip. Elevate your laptop so that you're really getting optimal.
Yeah, because if everybody's looking down, and this person I watched on Instagram Live, very famous person in the wine industry. He all I saw was the frownies because he was looking down. Like you see a lot of people going like this because I guess they're looking somewhere down here. And look what it does to your face. Ooh, ooh. Like you got to look up. That's like everybody I know in the industry said, look up. In fact, some people go like this. That's a little too high. But get that camera angle right and the light right so that you don't look like you're a ghost or you're frowning.
Yeah, Jennifer, I told you stop frowning.
I know.
Turn that frown upside down.
And I don't want to see the top of your head. I want to see your whole face. Listen, we now live in a society where you don't see half of people's faces anymore. I had 7 people come by our house this weekend to look at it, and I don't know what any of them look like. I went in to get my computer fixed today, and I was wearing a mask, sunglasses, and a hat because I'm on antibiotics. And I said, hi, I bet you don't recognize me. My husband barely recognizes me now. I don't recognize my husband at the grocery store. Everybody's wearing a mask, and they all look the same. They're all wearing
add the Holly Go Lightly glasses and you're a goner.
Well, that's what I had today when I went. I had a big hat, I had glasses, I had a mask. There was nothing you could see. There was no Melanie left.
Before we let you go, I know that we love Rita Jamay and her Caravel champagne. Champagne is one of those things that she's pairing in New York with steak. I still have said this before and I'll say it again. champagne pairs magnificently with cheeseburgers and French fries, especially when they're yummy and well cooked.
And popcorn. We've been drinking it with popcorn,
And
sparkling wine and popcorn. It goes with everything.
What are some wine trends that you're getting the news about for the spring and early summer season that you can share with us?
Oh gosh, that's a whole nother show. But here we go. Low alcohol. People love low alcohol. Rosé will continue. I'm really into interesting whites, like beyond Chardonnay, like Vermentino, the V's, and some of the interesting whites out of Italy. And I'm into Semillon, some of the non-Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Grigio.
Or an Arnais.
Yeah, Arnais, yes. You know, I think we need to step out. And Rosé's been there, and we love it, but some of these interesting white wines are so awesome. I mean, we were just in the Rhone before the lockdown. We had the best white wines in the Rhone. Really great food friendly.
What are you hearing about CBD and hemp-related beverages?
I get pitched all the time. I also get pitched on hard seltzer, and I know that seltzer is like the in thing, and that claw thing is really popular. It's not for me. Although I do spike my sparkling water with wine that we don't love. We'll probably put it in there because that's what you do with it. You spritz it. I am totally personally not into CBD products. I get them pitched for every which way from head to toe. They're going to improve my life. I don't think they're going to improve my life. And what they are doing is affecting, cannabis is cannibalizing the wine industry.
Did I just see David back there? Did you see that, Jennifer?
It's the handsome David Ransom? Yes, I did.
I saw David sneaking through the screen.
My eyes are peeled for his presence.
Our kitchen, I hear something, but I don't know if it's David. Yes.
Yoo-hoo,
He's
David.
in the kitchen.
And
David. Hi, David.
David is one of the journalists for the Tasting Panel magazine, among other things, and
he's doing a Greta Garbo right now.
Did you just mention Tasting Panel, Jennifer?
Yeah.
We're all dealing with hair issues right now.
We're all dealing with hair issues right now.
David colored mine for me, by the way. It was a very intimate experience.
My
hairdresser came down the driveway, threw my color at me, and one morning I said, "This is it. This is our bonding moment."
I love that. Before we let you go, talk a little bit about the Connected Table radio show.
The Connected Table Live.
Hi, love.
Oh, there he is.
Hi. I love that man.
Look at the blonde. He used some of my stuff.
As I live and breathe, it's my favorite co-host. Well, after Melanie.
Yeah. So the Connected Table Live airs Wednesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We interview global thought leaders in food, wine, spirits, and hospitality. We really focus on sharing their story. It's not about promoting a brand. It's about sharing their story. So we just had on this week's show was Tom Kennefic. Dr. Tom, he's like in his 80s, neurosurgeon who bought Kennefic Ranch 40 years ago and turned it into a great Cab Franc, really great Bordeaux blend wines. And his son, Chris and Caitlin runs. It was a family affair. And then we had from Wales, our first guest from Wales. It was kind of fun. Gaz Oakley, who was Plants Only Kitchen. So we have guests from all around the world. And we love that because we like to travel and we can't wait to get back on the road. And then the Connected Table sips are smaller.
Jennifer, she's always on the road. I get emails, Michael, I can't talk to you for 3.5 weeks because I'm going to be traveling. But when I get back, I'm going to look at my calendar. She won't even schedule. She has to get back and look at her calendar to see if she's back on the road again before we can talk.
So David just opened a Gewürztraminer. Whose is it?
From Israel.
From Israel. So we're drinking, what do we have? Yeah, so that's kind of it. It's good. It's very nice. It's not chilled enough yet, but it's good. So, and the Connected Table sips are shorter. So the Connected Table Live is a 50-minute show. Wednesday's live, and then it's podcast to iHeart, Spotify, Pandora, etc. You can hear it anytime. And the Connected Table sips are shorter. So they're under 12 minutes. They're great when you're jogging. And those are a little more branded and focused.
Before we let you go, can you tell us one story from recent history because what Michael and I love about doing these shows, and what I know you love doing these shows, bring us together with old friends. And when you're together with old friends, oftentimes you'll remember the good times and the saucy times and where you were. And do you remember when? And it's invariably, and when we talk about, you never know who's going to show up on this show and you never know what's going to come out of their mouth. When I think of you, and I know so many people recognize that you were proposed to on the stage of the James Beard Awards.
Yeah.
And I know that since David's here with us now, can we tell that story? Because it's such a charming, romantic story. And I think it's a great, good story to end the show with.
It's like a Johnny Cash moment. Of course, David went that way because he's hungry and wants to cook dinner. But it was the James Beard Awards 2006. And it was the theme honoring New Orleans after Katrina. Right. And I used to live in New Orleans. We poured our heart and soul into it. And I will never forget this. Just before we were the last 3 awards, Corby Kummer came out and said, we have a special edition to the show. It's on YouTube. And they brought me out on stage, and I thought it was to honor me because it was also my last James Beard Awards, and they had just honored me.
What was your role at that year's James Beard Awards?
Well, my role was always from the beginning. I helped start the awards. I was one of 3 people in the room, actually, and then it grew to 5, who sat and mapped out what the awards were going to be, because I had been working with Cook's Magazine, who had started the Who's Who of Cooking in America and had produced their awards, which became the James Beard Awards. I brought that program to the foundation, and it got rolled in with, and the late Peter Kump said, let's create an awards program. And so I was in the room where it happened, as they say, from the beginning. And then I took on the role of awards director to produce the awards, raise the money, just about do everything. And that was 16 years. So this awards was my last awards. It was a tribute to my favorite city. And Corby brings me out, and I thought he was just to say thank you. And then David came out in a white tuxedo with 24 roses. They're over there. Well, they're hanging up. They're still there. And he made a beautiful speech. And the backstory is, in the speech, he said, in the words of Johnny Apple, the late New York Times, you are my Betsy. And why that was, and I melted. And then he said, will you marry me? And why I melted was that I always told David, because I loved Johnny. I loved him as a person. And I said, I want to marry a man who loves his wife as much as Johnny Apple loves Betsy Apple, because he always wrote her into his articles. And when they were together, and we had dinner with them when they come to New York, because he was on the Restaurant Awards Committee, he glowed. You know, he could be cantankerous, but when he was with Betsy, he melted. She had a power over him, and she was a Southern woman from, strong Southern woman with the big hair. So when he said, in the words of Johnny Apple, you are my Betsy, I lost it. Now, what he told me later is he actually wrote Johnny, because he said he knew how much I loved him, and he was afraid to write the proposal, and he asked Johnny to help him write it. And Johnny was supposed to be on stage to introduce me, but he had throat cancer and had canceled at the last minute, had gone home. And David called me as I'm getting my makeup, and he said, I got to find somebody else to replace Johnny for the ceremony. And I said, well, why do you care? You're downstairs. You're the beverage director. You're supposed to be downstairs. And I didn't know that all this was happening. And David had worked it out with the technical producers and everything to stop the show for this proposal.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. And he thought of it himself. And it was just a testament to how amazing my husband, David Ransom, is to do this, and to think that he would reach out to Johnny and say, Johnny, I want you to help me write this proposal, and to say those words because he listened and knew that was our little secret special message. It was incredible.
Well, I love that you have quarantined together and that you share this show together, that you've shared a little bit of yourselves with us today, but more importantly, that you are so incredibly generous with our industry, and you've been such a pioneering and pivotal figure for us for such a long time. In addition to being a leader, you are my dear friend, and I'm grateful to you coming to visit with us today.
Well, Jennifer, I'll always have your back. I will always have your back. And I do what everything I do is mission driven. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
I'll never make a lot of money, but I will always make a big difference. And that's really important.
I remember now you are from Tennessee.
Yep.
And in the last 2 weeks, we have had more people come on this show to talk about their chicken sandwich or their spicy. What the heck did you all do with the chicken sandwich that now it is like the biggest thing in the restaurant business? And it's the biggest thing in food. It's the biggest thing in the country. What is so special about your Tennessee chicken sandwich?
I really don't know, because I'm not a big fan, because I miss health and wellness. It's hot. It's basically hot chicken. It's fried chicken that's hot. You can do it anywhere, but they've mastered it. And Hattie's and the other one that everybody goes to. It's like, God, this is like the best chicken. It's not where I go when I go to Nashville, because it's Nashville hot chicken. I like the meat and threes. That's my favorite thing about Tennessee. But everybody loves this chicken because everybody likes fried chicken. Who doesn't like fried chicken? Well, me, but everybody else.
Listen, one of my favorite combinations of all time is fried chicken and champagne. It's what I served on my big birthday.
Yeah.
Michael,
well, I like David's roast chicken. David makes the best roast chicken in the world. So that's my favorite chicken.
Where can people follow you online?
You can go to Instagram, The Connected Table, Twitter, Connected Table, theconnectedtable.com, and you can find our shows on iHeart, Spotify, iTunes, you name it, Connected Table.
And are you doing any media training for foodies?
Yes, I do it when if somebody hires me. I mean, it's not I'm out there like selling myself right now, but I have done it for several, and we do it a lot when we do our SIPS programs. We do some sponsored content, and part of it involves 90% of it involves training people to do an interview correctly. But it's something that I've done for years, and I'm getting back into it because a lot of people need it.
Does Jennifer need it, or is she good at what she does?
Jennifer's perfect. Jennifer taught me how to do radio. It was because of Jennifer we got into radio. David was
that's right,
as a guest host, and then I was there one day when you were on vacation, and then when they were like, "Oh, this is kind of fun," and what are we doing with the rest of our lives anyway? Because I'd closed M Young Communications, I'd created the Connected Table. We weren't really sure what we were doing with it. We just had a company and a couple of events, and then we realized this was kind of fun, and we were having a good time, and we like sharing stories.
And you're so good at it. You were a nominee this year for the IACP Best Radio.
I couldn't believe it. It was the only award show I entered in the only category, because we were like, you have to pay all these fees, and I was like, oh my God, my friend Bonnie. I didn't even go into the city for the ceremony. I was like, why go? And my friend Bonnie was like, you just got nominated for an IACP award. I'm like, you're kidding. And the other nominees are like Chris Kimball at Milk Street, who hired me to do the Who's Who of Cooking in America. He was like one of my mentors. And the other one was somebody from NPR. Like this, I don't know, somebody at NPR. We're perma nominees because I don't know when the ceremony is. So we're just perma nominees.
Well, I love that.
Melanie, I'm happy with that.
I love you. Thank you.
Love you too.
Thank you, Melanie.
And Michael, thank you. It was great to see you. I love getting your weekly newsletters. I
love getting any email you ever sent me. Ever. I always love
we're just having a love fest. So
we knew that would come. Yes.
Well, have me back anytime. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank David too.
I will.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
Wow. What a nice lady, huh?
What she has done for this business can't be measured.
No, she's awesome. She's always been supportive of everything that Food and Beverage Magazine has done. And I know they have relationships with Meredith at the tasting panel and all, but she's always an ear for me. Right? Yeah, I don't know whatever happened to them. They were too fancy for me. And here we are, Jennifer English, Michael Politz, Food and Beverage Magazine Live. That was just an intense show.
We got a lot of really good information for a lot of really good people.
Yeah, it was powerful. How's tomorrow's show looking?
Even better.
Oh, my goodness. Really?
But I'm going to say this, Michael, to everybody out there. Sip the good stuff. Cook something for your family. Eat something you really like. We have today. That's all we're guaranteed. And more than anything else, remember that conviviality starts at home. So hug your kids, count your blessings, make something delicious, eat something wonderful, sip the good stuff, and be grateful.
Tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.